Hello M0 user, my name is Andrew and today I want to show you M0 and ArgoCD integration. So what are the benefits of integrating M0 with ArgoCD? One is you get a codified platform for application deployments. And what do I mean by that? Well, in M0 you already are deploying your infrastructure with Terraform or Pulumi or Cloudformation. So you're setting up your network and compute layer. But now customers also want to manage the ArgoCD installation as well as the applications behind that. So with M0's Helm support or Kubernetes manifest, you can install ArgoCD through your M0 pipeline. And what that means is you get as a platform engineering team or a DevOps team, you can now codify the entire deployment process, that application delivery process. So you get your network layer, compute layer, as well as Argo, your application delivery tool, as all in code and for repeatable deployment method for your application teams. What that also gets you with M0 is the ability to provide self-service for your applications. ArgoCD has an application CRD that you can deploy through M0. So by deploying those application CRDs within M0, you can now introduce access control, so approval workflow, approval policies through that deployment process. You can introduce time to live, so your applications, whether they're dev test or ephemeral, you can have a time to live setting on it so those applications will self-destruct and not consume those Kubernetes resources. And then you can also introduce best practices. Essentially, an easier way for your development team to deploy common applications that they might need in their Kubernetes cluster and have them self-service that. Let's take a look at the deployment flow and what that looks like. So again, I mentioned earlier, you can deploy your network layer already and compute layer already with M0. With M0's Helm chart or Kubernetes manifest, you can now deploy ArgoCD as part of that process. And then to add on top of that, using ArgoCD's application CRD, deploy those application metadata essentially to let Argo then manage the actual delivery of that application within the Kubernetes cluster. Let's see that in action. So here in M0, I've already deployed a Kubernetes cluster and I've installed Argo onto that cluster. So if I come into my Argo UI admin interface, you can see here, it's just vanilla Argo with no applications installed just yet. Let's take a look at the Kubernetes cluster itself. If I do a kget namespace, here you can see I have Argo, kget pods, and namespace Argo. Cool. And let's get pods in the metrics server. Okay, so nothing is existing. So if I try to do top pods right now, no, metrics API is not available. So let's go fix that. In M0, I already have this metrics server deployed previously. I'm going to redeploy it now. And while that's running, I'll show you what it's doing behind the scenes. So essentially what it is again, a Kubernetes manifest. Let's go take a look at that manifest. This is the application YAML manifest, which is, again, an Argo CRD, and I'm deploying the metrics server. The most important part here is the source. This is a Helm source, so I'm deploying version 3.11 of the metrics server. And if I go back to M0, you can see that it already finished deploying. And if I go to Argo, on a refresh, it is now progressing on the installation of the metrics server. And in a few seconds, there you go, it's healthy now. Cool, so let's go back into my Kubernetes cluster, get pods in the metrics server. Metrics service is now running. Now if I do ktop pods, all namespaces, awesome. Now I can track how much CPU or memory each of these pods are consuming, give me a better understanding of anything that's going wrong in my Kubernetes cluster. So just to recap, what I've shown you so far is M0 deploying ArgoCD through the Helm chart, as well as our M0 deploying the application CRD. This now integration gives you the ability to control the application delivery process through M0 if you find that useful. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and I look forward to hearing from you. Cheers.